All right, thanks everyone for joining us. Yuri, do you want to go ahead and kick us off?
Absolutely. Hello, everybody. I'm Yuri Cernande, Asian Pacific American Chamber of Commerce President. I want to start by acknowledging the moment we are in. All Asian immigrants owe a debt to the Black community. We are here because of their resilience. We stand in solidarity with our Black colleagues, neighbors, and family at this time. At this time, our own Asian Pacific Islander business community was particularly impacted early on this crisis due to xenophobia and racism. It's especially important for all of us to take this time to talk about our experiences, to find a path forward, and to have our voices heard. We are here at Mojo Crepes in the Jade District to support John Hopkins, the founder. We're also here with a couple of our APAC board members, Tui Tu and Naska Habibi. Also here is Paul Vu from Eyewear Design Alliance and Gus Harput, a designer from Harput's Own, who have supplied us with these masks. Thank you for joining the Asian and Pacific Islander business owner reopening listening session. We know you are all very busy and we appreciate you taking the time to join us. The goals of this session are to, number one, share information about new health requirements and understand the business community's questions and concerns. Number two, identify reopening challenges and opportunities from the Asian Pacific Islander business community. Incorporate business voices as the city and county looks towards reopening. The co-hosts of the sessions are the Asian Pacific American Chamber of Commerce, which I represent, the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce, PACO, and we have Jan Mason, the president of PACO, director of marketing with Group McKenzie, and the Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon, or APANO, and we have Grace Hendricks, business advisor with APANO, with a background as an entrepreneur and a business owner. She founded, operated, and sold 2 businesses here, ranking with multiple years of Business Journal's annual list of top women-owned businesses before joining APANO this February. We also have with us in this session, representing the state, we have Rayana Ansari, Regional Solutions Coordinator, Metro Region Office of Governor Kate Brown. Representing the county, we have Jessica Guernsey, Public Health Division Deputy Director, and Virginia Luca, Program Specialist Senior of Pacific Islander Community. Representing Prosper Portland, we have Shia, Manager of the Entrepreneurship and Community Economic Development Team. And we also have a number of great business owners that have volunteered to speak in the discussion, and we'll be kicking off our discussion shortly after we go through these ground rules. Thank you guys so much for joining us and being willing to share about your experience. I will now hand it over to Grace Hendricks.
Thanks, Yuri. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Grace Hendricks with APANO. I'm the business advisor, and we just want to go through a few meeting protocols and familiarize you all with the format. If you're new to Zoom, you will see in the lower left bottom section, there's a mute and a stop video. If you're a speaker, would you please leave your video on the whole session? And if you're not a speaker, could you please turn off your video and also mute yourself unless you're. And we will be recording the session, and there will be language access after the session. The other component to know about in the Zoom is chat, which is the little dialogue with 3 dots in it. As you have questions or comments, you can enter them there. And Andrea Gall from Prosper Portland will be calling out as they get entered into chat after the speakers are completed with their speaking. And I think that's it. So please do your video and please mute yourself unless you're speaking. And I think that's it. I will now hand it over to Shay Flaherty.
Great. Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to, above all, just appreciate you all for being here. It's an unprecedented time in our city and in our region, and we know and have heard frequently from a lot of the pain that business owners have been experiencing. Yuri, we really appreciate your words and grounding us. It is truly a seminal moment in how we continue to show up for Black and African-American lives in our city, and also recognizing that the API community has been affected by the coronavirus crisis slightly longer than a lot of our other communities here in town due to increasing xenophobia and racism. And we'll add that in Prosper Portland, we were well aware of that, and our first intervention we rolled out in this crisis was a direct block grant to the API community. So we just appreciate that y'all are here and that have continued to just work with us and share current struggles with us. We know that it's going to take continued effort for all of us to work together to get through this. Thank you also to our partners at the county and state to be here to share directly on the latest of what's happening in terms of both our public health response and how we're responding to the economic crisis. Really quick on your screen, what you see here is just a framework we've been using at Prosper Portland to identify really kind of who's on point for public health responses and economic responses, and some of the early frameworks that we've put in place as we work on this with our wider task force, with the mayor, with city council, and with our partners, both regionally in the state and the county. Really grateful that you'll be hearing from folks today. Again, we, above all, as the city in Prosper Portland, we're here primarily to listen, to understand what are the challenges that people are facing as we approach reopening, and really what are what is available in terms of the city's toolbox, and what is the city going to be able to do, Prosper Portland being a part of the city, to best help folks respond to those crises. We know that the need is immense. We know that early interventions like our Small Business Relief Fund and our initial grant to API business owners is not enough. It's a drop in the bucket. And so we're hoping that this work will continue to inform potential future relief. And so your feedback is important today, and we appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Shay. Before we go into the moderated discussion, we want to hear from our county and state partners. By the way, I should introduce myself. I'm Jan Mason with PACO. I'm president of PACO, and we'll be moderating the discussion portion. Before we go there and introduce our business owners on the roundtable, we'll start with Multnomah County. If Jessica and Virginia, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and share out.
Great. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm gonna, I know we don't have a ton of time, so I'm gonna kind of speak quickly about the status of Multnomah County, and I wanna welcome and invite Virginia Luca to join in some of the conversations about what we're doing specifically in public health related to our response. So I'm going to go over some of the basics related to reopening. First of all, I want to thank folks for the opening remarks regarding, really in public health, what we consider to be the biggest pandemic, which is systemic racism. This is really in all health outcomes is a driver for multiple poor health outcomes in our Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. So we really appreciate the words and the actions and the solidarity in working towards multiple public health epidemics that we're seeing. For COVID-19, as I said, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the reopening dashboard that some of you have probably seen on our website, and talk a little bit about that. These are the metrics that are required by the state for us to apply for reopening. last week, we had a surprising end of week with applying to reopen as a county and finding out from the state that they felt we were not prepared. I just want to make a note that it wasn't just Multnomah County. We obviously haven't entered phase 1 yet, but there were other concerns that were coming up across the state related to outbreaks and hospitalizations that we're seeing in non-metro counties that were concerning the state. So they have decided to do a 1-week pause on moving forward at all, which obviously did include Multnomah County and moving to phase 1. I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna talk kind of quickly about the measures and where we are. These include obviously the spread of COVID-19. Again, last week we started to see an increase uptick in COVID-19, not just in Multnomah County, but across the state that gave the state pause in moving forward at all. That uptick actually started before we, excuse me, the uptick started after we submitted our application for reopening. The contact tracing component, hopefully some folks have heard a little bit about this. This is something that we do in public health pretty regularly in contacting folks that have been identified as having a positive test so that we can build trust with folks, help support them in their needs, and identify folks that maybe have had contact with them to get them tested and get them wraparound care that they need to help reduce the spread of the disease. We're in progress to meeting that metric, and we're well on our way to meeting that. We also have, we have to show that we have the ability, I really hate the term isolation facilities. It's a very frightening term. What that means is that we have the ability to house people and remove them from a situation where perhaps they're in contact with other folks to reduce the spread among families or other contacts, and we've met that. We've met that criteria. Testing capacity, we have met that criteria, and we are expanding that to make sure that we have sufficient community-based testing. While our healthcare partners have quite a bit of testing capacity, it doesn't mean that everyone is going to go to a healthcare provider. So we are spending a lot of time and energy in partnering with community to build out accessible community-based testing. Our healthcare capacity, we have met that. What that means is that as a region, we can accept about a 20% surge in healthcare need. So we have met that criteria. And then personal protective equipment. We had to show regionally that we could maintain enough personal protective equipment for, say, for example, healthcare staff. Two of the metrics I just want to say real quick that we in Multnomah County added as additional for our criteria to make sure we were meeting a bar that we felt was sufficient in our diverse community is in our hospitalization rates that relates to our the spread of COVID-19 and what we're seeing in hospitalization is that we specifically layered on looking very closely at how hospitalizations were affecting BIPOC communities. So it's not simply a matter of looking at overall numbers, but we're looking at more granular data to understand is there disparate impact. And that's one of the areas that was not required of us, but we added that in order to look at what we're seeing in Multnomah County. The other criteria that we added was ensuring that we had personal protective equipment that we could distribute to key community and non-clinical health partners, community-based agencies specifically that are again serving BIPOC communities, because they're such an important component of overall community continuity and our infrastructure. So we added another level of making sure we were able to provide some of that in the community. Next slide. So as I mentioned, we applied on June 5th. We were notified on June 11th that the numbers, both in terms of our positivity rate and an uptick in our hospitalizations, were concerning, again, not just in Multnomah County, but in other areas of the state, understanding that counties, people in counties interact. We're not isolated necessarily county by county. So we were asked to pause. And the state right now is in the process of working with us to reevaluate our application and the numbers this week. So we're in the process of looking at that with the state right now. Next slide. And then, some of the stuff I believe that the state will be talking about today is that the guidance related to businesses reopening includes some prevention efforts that you all have been doing all along, and another thank you to you all for being part of one of the largest public health efforts in terms of coming together and protecting the entire community. All of the things that folks have done in terms of physical distancing, folks staying home when they're sick, cleaning surfaces, and wearing face coverings and or masks have all contributed tremendously to reducing the spread of COVID-19 across the whole community. I think with that, I'm going to turn it over to Virginia to talk a little bit about some of the community-specific efforts that are going on.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. My role in Multnomah County as Program Specialist Senior for the Pacific Islander community, I'm part Pacific Islander researcher, and my other part is kind of the community organizer. But I also want to share that I sit on the board of Apano and Living Islands, and I serve as a program coordinator for Utopia PDX, which is the United Territories of Pacific Islanders Alliance Portland. I'm also a member of Barangay Belao, the Palau community organization that's been serving Oregon and Southwest Washington for over 30 years. So here are some ways that myself and my colleagues at the county have been supporting Asian American and Pacific Islander folks, and as well as the immigrant population. So first off, we have a culturally specific liaison team, and we serve the BIPOC, the Black, Indigenous, People of Color communities, including the API communities. So as I said, I've been serving the Pacific Islander community, and my supervisor, Peiru Wang, has been serving the Asian community. And through those cultural specific liaison work, one of the things we have is we have a weekly call that happens on Thursdays, and it's a chance to connect with community organizations, with community leaders and members. It's a place for us to discuss what's going on in our various communities, listen to the feedback that's going on in our community, and then share it with folks in our county who need to know, the people who have the ability to take action from what we learn. It's also, in order to support any kind of community-led efforts that we hear about, and as well as connect folks to resources. A lot of folks will call us and say, we have folks in our community who are not sure where to get rental assistance, or they're not sure, where they can get food boxes. So we are the people who can help you all connect with those types of resources, whether or not it comes from the community. It can come from the state or elsewhere. We are given a long list of resources that we can help people access. Additionally, just very recently, in the past week, the county has set aside dedicated funding in order to provide $250 Visa gift cards to many organizations. The API organizations that were able to get some of this funding is Utopia PDX, as well as ERCO's Asian Family Center and Apano. I don't have the numbers that were given to ERCO and Apano, but I can tell you that Utopia got 104 of them. So that's $26,000 worth of Visa gift cards that as soon as the county gets it to their names, basically the organization is asked to give the county the names of the family, how many people live in those families, and their addresses, and the county will send those gift cards to those families. And all of those gift cards are supposed to be given out by the end of this month, so we only have a couple weeks left. Additionally, I think to me the most exciting thing that has just happened is we now have community health workers. We have some funding where we're going to be able to have 35 community health workers throughout the BIPOC community. And these community health workers, you know, they're really important to our healthcare because a lot of times they're the people who have the trust in the community. They have community understanding of what their community needs are. They're going to be helping to support the county's contact tracing and community testing efforts. They're going to help provide culturally centered education about COVID-19 symptoms, monitoring and prevention. They're going to be able to provide informal counseling and emotional support to cope with social isolation, as well as navigating those resources and getting access to advocacy. I'm happy to say that the organizations that are going to be serving the API community that were selected, so ERCO's Asian Family Center, they are going to be getting $500,000 in order to provide some of those services. And from what I understand, they'll be having 2 Asian community health workers, but they'll also have other folks from their Africa House as well, serving the Middle Eastern folks, as well as the African immigrant and refugee folks. And then Utopia PDX will be getting $200,000 in order to hire 2 community health workers. And that to me is really exciting because we understand that, you know, it's one thing to do the testing and the contact tracing, but who's going to call these folks and who's going to connect these folks who, you know, as they're testing positive or they're scared for their families, they need someone that they can get wraparound services with. So right now we are working to contract with these organizations and to get them set up so that they can start hiring folks. And once they hire those folks, that they can get training done. I don't have a specific timeline, but if I had to guess, I'm hoping that these community health workers can be in place by end of July, early September, depending on the different organizations. The different organizations are being allowed to move at their speed. And so, for example, right now, we already have the Latinx community who are a little ahead of the game. And so we are learning kind of from the process that they're going through. I also want to share that there is an Oregon Pacific Islander emergency response call that happens every Friday at 6 to 7. And it's a place where the Oregon Pacific Islander leaders and organizations are getting together because they realized they needed to form this coalition in order to find out how we can help each other out. And so they have different work groups. They have isolation work group, testing and tracing work group, and so on and so forth. So one of the things that they're going to be doing is this next 2 Saturdays, the 20th and the 27th, there's going to be a Native American, Alaska Native, and Pacific Islander COVID-19 resource event. So the Native community and the Pacific Islander community are getting together to host this event. One thing I want to say is that anyone can attend this event. It's not specific to those ethnic groups, but we're hosting it. So anyone can come through. If folks need, I'm sure there's a way that I can share the flyer with you. People are being asked to register by phone or an online form. We're hoping to test up to 300 people at each event. And we will also be providing, while supplies last, toilet paper, diapers, hand sanitizers, face coverings, and any other materials that we have to share. And just to let you know that there will be more community test sites being planned as we speak. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for the time.
Thanks, Virginia. And now we'll hand over to Rehana with the state. Thanks, Rehana.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Andrea, and thank you to the Asian Pacific American Chamber of Commerce, the Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon, and the Philippine American Chamber of Commerce and Prosper Portland for hosting this listening session and for the opportunity to share a brief overview of the governor's reopening plan. As Andrea mentioned, I'm Rehana Ansari, the governor's regional solutions lead for the Metro region. I know that many Asian Pacific Islander businesses have experienced xenophobia as a result of COVID-19, and that many have experienced a loss in sales even before the governor issued her Stay Home, Save Lives order in March. So I look forward to hearing from you about what you're experiencing on the ground, your thoughts, concerns, and recommendations. The governor's framework for reopening is designed to be cautious, incremental, and based on science and data. In Oregon, we've flattened the curve, but we know it's not without the significant sacrifices that you and others have made. The governor's top priority is ensuring the public health and safety of everyone. At the same time, we know that people are experiencing significant economic hardship. The governor's reopening plan strives to achieve the delicate balance between public health and the health of our economy. Next slide, please. The governor's goals for reopening are listed here. They include minimizing hospitalizations and deaths, allowing people to safely return to work so that they can support themselves and their families, minimizing risk to frontline workers, avoiding overwhelming healthcare systems, protecting those at highest risk of severe illness, especially communities of color, and support for small local gatherings that preserve community cohesion and cultural practices. Next slide, please. It's important to note that even as we begin to reopen, life will look different. We'll be living with the virus until there's a reliable treatment or vaccine, which is many, many months out. Until then, the primary tools that we have to fight the spread of the virus are actually pretty low tech and include physical distancing and personal hygiene. Every restriction that we lift will increase transmission and the number of cases. That's why it's important for us to reopen in a thoughtful and safe manner. Next slide, please. This graphic shows the types of activities and businesses allowed in each phase and the guidelines available in each phase. The left side represents guidelines that apply statewide in the baseline phase for outdoor recreation, retail stores, childcare, summer school camps, youth activities, and takeout only at restaurants. The middle column applies to counties in phase 1. These are the activities that are allowed in phase 1 under guidelines: restaurants and bars, personal service providers, malls, gyms, and local gatherings of no more than 25 people with the need to maintain physical distancing. The right side applies to counties in phase 2. After at least 21 days in phase 1, counties that continue to meet the prerequisites may be able to enter phase 2. Things that are included in phase 2 are expanded gathering size of up to 250 people for indoor and outdoor entertainment facilities and at venues and events. Some office work, although telework is still strongly recommended, and some changes to restaurants and bars, allowing for them to close at midnight, as opposed to 10 p.m. That is required in phase 1. Phase 3 won't happen until there's a reliable treatment or vaccine, which again is many, many months out. Therefore, concerts, live audience sports, conventions, and festivals won't happen until there's a reliable treatment or vaccine. Next slide, please. Given time constraints, I won't go over all of the sector-specific guidelines in detail. Instead, here are some examples of the types of guidelines that exist. For restaurants, ensure that tables are spaced at least 6 feet apart, and that distance between parties is maintained, including when customers approach or leave tables. Require that all employees wear face coverings, and all consumption of food and drinks by 10 p.m. in phase 1 and 12 a.m. in phase 2. For retail, limit the number of customers and maintain at least 6 feet of physical distance. Frequently clean and sanitize work areas and high traffic areas. Require all employees to wear face coverings. Prohibit customers from trying on items that are worn on the face. And if reopening fitting rooms, customers should wash hands or hand sanitize before and after. For personal services, appointments and pre-appointment health check required, including maintaining a customer log, again, 6 feet of physical distancing, remove all magazines, newspapers, snacks, and beverages from waiting areas, and use face covering, capes, smocks, depending on the services provided. While industry sector guidelines vary, there are common themes throughout all of the guidelines, including around physical distancing, increased cleaning and sanitization, and the use of face coverings, as well as knowing symptoms. Next slide, please. Finally, you may find additional information and resources about the reopening and industry sector guidelines on the Governor and Oregon Health Authorities web pages. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you all. I'm happy to stay on the line and answer any questions afterward. Thank you.
Thank you, Rehana. I see some activity on the chat. We have several small business owners that we are going to be identifying this morning or this afternoon. Before I do that, a few things to mention before we go into our introductions and discussion. PACO, along with APAC and ONAC and the Hispanic Chamber and the Black American Chamber have partnered also with Prosper for PPE boxes. If you would like to get on the list and request PPE, we are doing a distribution this week. You can contact Yuri or you can contact myself. mason.jan.pdx@gmail.com is my email for that. You can also contact me by phone later. I'll give that phone number a little later. So there are still a few opportunities for boxes for that. So I want to not take away time and dive in right into our business owners so they have time to speak, as well as we can have a Q&A. We have a few prepared questions, and then we'll be able to open it up to discussion to. We have quite a few participants. We have 54 participants on the call today. So I'm going to go down the line alphabetically and start with our guest roundtable, and we'll start with Amelia. And if you could identify yourself, tell us about your business name and industry, how has COVID-19 affected you, and then the challenges. If you could just do that in a couple minutes, and then we have some prepared questions. So let's start with Amelia. If you could go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, I'm Amelia Salvador. I am actually in two industries. I am a commercial real estate broker, and I am also a small business owner, and I own and operate my own marketing consulting firm. How has COVID affected? You know, I actually work from home, and prior to COVID, I've been working from home, but it is very difficult as far as meeting my clients and going on site to locations required that with the industries I work in, that's been difficult. And, you know, as far as working with my clients, I have to say they are struggling quite a bit. With the commercial real estate, the biggest concerns we have are empty storefronts. And then as far as my marketing business, I work particularly with a events venue, and this has definitely impacted their ability to operate and produce income for their wedding venue.
Thanks, Amelia. Arlene Strugar, can you go ahead and introduce yourself, your business industry, and your business?
Hi, everyone. I'm Arlene Strugar, and I do own a small health and wellness center here in Hillsborough. I am a psychologist, and so I focus more on the health and wellness coaching and providing group services, including children's programs and high-level athletes in terms of providing them sports psychology programs. So far right now, I do my business more on, you know, tele conferencing. So the challenge there will be really in establishing rapport and, you know, creating that attention. Especially our services are really about motivating our clients to stay healthy and do their programs, you know, a routine properly. We could leverage the, you know, Zoom for now, but we are missing out on our face-to-face program, especially for children who are competitive athletes that would, you know, require a little bit more of a face-to-face and group interactions.
Thank you, Arlene.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jamie Lynn. Jamie, can you unmute yourself and introduce yourself? You're talking there. Oh, we lost you again.
There.
There you go. Yes.
My name is Jamie Lim, and I'm publisher of the Asian Reporter newspaper. And there's a couple of components to our business. One of them, of course, is the paper. And the biggest challenge there is that, you know, as everybody knows, our revenues come from advertising. And that's pretty much dried up right now. So that's a challenge. And of course, the other component of our business, we have some real estate, like rentals and stuff. And many of those, especially the commercial rental, are in very dire situation, simply because many of the businesses are closed, actually most of them. And then collecting rent is not easy. And being that many of the businesses are closed, we've had several cases of places getting broken into because they look abandoned, you know. And so that's another challenge. That's a big loss for some of the tenants that are there. And so the going back to the newspaper, you know, we're looking at maybe downsizing, simply because if advertising doesn't recover soon, we'll have to look at another way to generate revenue for that. And that's pretty much it. The two components of our business. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Next, we want to call on Marvin Rivera. Can you introduce yourself and your business and industry, please?
Hi, my name is Marvin Rivera, and I'm a tattoo business owner. It's Mariposa Tattoo Studio, and I provide services for body tattoos and cosmetic tattoos. Yeah, so right now, my shop is pretty much closed, and the challenge is the paying my monthly payments. And a lot of people are asking for to be scheduled, but I told them we're still waiting for the state, the governor, to give us a go for reopening, and I'm hoping should be soon, so I can generate some more income, you know, make a comeback. And yeah, thank you for inviting me in this Zoom meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Marvin. I'm sure we'll want to come back to you for a few more questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, Randolph Crescini, can you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for the invitation. So I'm Randolph Crescini. I'm a real estate agent serving the Portland metro area, as well as the Vancouver area as well. How has the pandemic affected our business, the real estate business? Well, open houses are very, very tough to conduct. So we've actually relied on like the Zoom technology, virtual open houses and so forth, right? We're actually tapping into Facebook as well as a means to promote some of the listings that we have. Now that some of the restrictions have actually lightened up, so we're seeing a lot more open houses being held in the last couple of weeks or so. We are taking extreme measures to make sure that we're protected, our clients, our homeowners are protected, as well as our visitors as well. So we follow these guidelines very, very rigorously to make sure that, you know, we don't want to spread the virus as much as we can.
Thanks, Randolph.
Thank you.
So, question for the business owners: as you consider, as you go plan for reopening, how are you considering the new public health restrictions for your business for phase 1? Marvin, would you like to go first?
Yes. Again, let me put back my microphone real quick. Yeah. So I was reading the email from the governor in the state saying that we have to wear masks, and we have to the customers has to call or let us know if they have some type of symptoms, like at least a day before. And I'm still kind of, I got, some of the rules that I know, and I still want to know more. What we need to do? Do we need to actually like make them sign a form, or saying that, oh yeah, I don't have a cold symptoms or anything, So for the tracing, and just to make sure that and of course I want to be safe also. When I perform a procedure for my clients, so vice versa. And do we put like signs on, in the shop, like how to, wash your hands, and all the safety stuff, procedures. I'm still kind of not sure what needs to be done, with operating the business back up. So yeah, those are my questions.
Okay, so it sounds like in preparing for your reopening, you're having more questions than answers, at least for you, because of your specific industry and how to prepare. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes. Yeah, okay. And Multnomah County is, I'm in the Multnomah County, so I don't know if they're gonna open soon or not. So I heard it's gonna be like next week, hopefully. So, but I'm only doing one person at a time, and 6 feet apart. There's not gonna be any more people. I'll be accommodating to come in to the shop. They can only be just one person. So at the time of the procedure, and then when somebody's gonna pick them up or something, then I'll let them sit on the waiting area.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, let's open it up to the other business owners. What are you facing as you think about phase 1 reopening and that's a hard word, putting your operations in place and preparing using the public health guidelines and restrictions? Sorry. Arlene.
I think for me, because our services are primarily geared toward health and wellness, so we really have to embody, the state's guidelines. For now, what I'll plan to do is to just get going with getting used to the telehealth and video conferencing. The challenge there is really about providing, the same level of monitoring and effectiveness of your programs as it was face-to-face. So it's just really, making sure that your programs still stick, and that, our clients are getting, achieving the goals that they will achieve if we're doing face-to-face. So that's quite experimental on my part. So when it comes to providing group, services for our athletes and our other clients, it's something that we'll be postponing until we have a better, you know, policies in place and make sure that we are all safe.
Okay. Also in the chat, Rihanna from our governor's office has posted some links, and we can share that later, but with this group. But there's some links to some FAQs that have been developed on reopening guidelines for specific industries. So like personal services, I think is a category there that's mentioned there. And those are there. There's also other information if people have specific industries that they want to find out about from the governor's reopening guidance. Let's go into our next question. What about your experience with your employees and working in this new environment? What challenges are you foreseeing with working with either your clients or employees or retaining employees? Maybe just as a basic question, many of you seem to be sole proprietors, and correct me if I'm wrong, who among the business roundtable has employees? Yeah, so most of you are working on your own. So I'm going to open it up also to the guest on the call. If you could put a question in the chat as well, especially if you have a question relating to employees and what you're facing as challenges. While we're doing that, for other supports, what types of things do as business owners are your challenges that you're facing or things that you find that you need? There's been a lot of talk about PPE. We heard some discussion earlier. Are there any policies that are impacting your business? And what are those? Jamie Lim, you're on mute. I'll unmute you. Oh, there you are.
Well, actually, again, like I said, the biggest challenge to our newspaper is the lack of advertising coming in. That's I guess everybody is in the same boat. People are cutting on expenses, and so the first thing that people cut down on is advertising. And the other portion that we're really trying to wait on is we have quite a few business tenants, and you know, if we don't open soon, many of these businesses are going to go out of business. Specifically, we have about 10 food carts in our pod, and they're all pretty much shut down except maybe a couple of carts, and they're waiting for us to be able to bring the tables back and the chairs so people can start buying food from them. Because right now, the to-go business is very slow for them.
Thank you, Jamie. Any other business owners want to chime in on challenges you're facing or things that you need? Especially we have the county listening in and we have the state listening in. So it's a great time to have some open dialogue.
In the chat, Grace Henricks, can you come off mute and comment on some of the challenges for restaurants?
Yes, hi, thank you. Since our restaurant owner wasn't able to make it today, I thought I would touch on a couple of the challenges that I'm hearing from our restaurant business owners. And the obvious one, loss of revenue, loss of sales. But the limited sales that they are trying to access through the delivery, there is a struggle with the rates that Caviar and Grubhub and Postmates are effective June 1st. Some of the rates have doubled to 30%. And on the Apano team with our political advocacy, we're just starting to look at see what is possible around having a cap or some sort of support around that delivery commission, which is making the sale that the small restaurants are trying to make, they're losing that. And it's an attraction also because also some of the smaller restaurants don't have the ability to deliver, but they're the platform where the businesses are advertised. So it's a little bit of a hostage situation for, especially with the June 1st, almost doubling the commission. And then the second thing is also related to pricing structure for the small restaurants, which is that the restaurants with the social distancing are reducing their ability to earn sales when we do go operating dine-in services, with 50% of their seating lost. And
Did we lose you?
I think she dropped off.
Okay, sorry, Grace. We can come back to Grace, but I'll just pick up a little bit. We've been hearing the restaurant owners that we were unable to have today had something come up. Carlo LaMagna from Magna Cucina and Cindy from Tambayan also. But there are some specific challenges to the restaurant industry, and many have in the to-go sales are saying that's not sufficient to really keep their doors open. They're barely getting by. They're paying their employees, but they're not paying themselves, is what we're hearing. And so those are challenges that they're facing. And I just also want to recognize Jamie from the mayor's office. Thank you, Jamie, for listening in as well. So I want to, I'll just, as a Filipino American, I'll say we're very, many of our API here in the room are very polite, but this is a time we really want you to really be candid with the group. And the group is here to listen. So we know that things are not all rosy and wonderful and not working well. So please be candid and feel free. And I would like to check the chat. How are we doing, Andrea? Are there some questions there as well?
Yes, I think first we can hand over to Shay and Jamie to discuss the Grubhub, and then over to Rayhana to talk about where requirements are available. Thanks, Jan.
Perfect, thank you.
Great, thank you, Andrea. And again, we're lucky to have Jamie Dunphy on the call, but I'll just mention that throughout this, we've been interfacing with a number of other cities and seeing their responses to COVID-19. We have seen a number of cities that have been able to institute a cap on service delivery fees from things like Grubhub. I believe the most aggressive cap we've seen has been from San Francisco. They did a 15% cap, so they capped all of the service delivery charges from Grubhub and Caviar at 15%. We talked to other cities where they've actually been unable to do that. So Chicago, for example, it's illegal in their city code to implement something like that. And so what we've been doing recently, we've connected with the city attorneys to really confirm that legally the city of Portland could do something like this. And I will share, I believe that the purview for this kind of permit or for this kind of ordinance would have to be channeled through Commissioner Udaley's office. So we had a meeting earlier today with this, or with some of the city attorneys and our own attorneys, and we're planning to reach out to Commissioner Udaley's office around this as well. But I also encourage other folks on this call to express the urgent need for this to Commissioner Udaley's office too. So I don't know if you have anything to add, Jamie, but that's the latest we've heard so far.
I will just say that I had a good conversation with both the mayor and with Commissioner Udaley's staff about this. This is a top priority that they are going to be working on through the Bureau of Transportation. And I've already offered the resources of the mayor's office as well on pursuing this. So like I said, this is the next top of my list of important legislative issues to get going forward. So thanks for the encouragement. And also please do continue to, if you are able, please let Commissioner Udaley's office know the urgency around this. It will make my job easier on the back end.
Thank you, Jamie. Very much appreciate you representing City Council and being in attendance here for the listening session. Let's see, there's some activity on the chat.
I think now we can hand over to Rayhana and then the county. I think there's some questions to clarify which requirements are county specific versus which requirements are across the state.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Andrea. So all of the industry sector guidelines were developed by the governor's office and the Oregon Health Authority in consultation with industry practitioners. And they apply statewide. And they apply if and when a county enters into a phase. There are some guidelines that apply in the baseline phase. There are some guidelines that apply for phase 1 and phase 2. And again, phase 3 won't happen until there's a reliable treatment or vaccine. But no city or county should be developing their own industry sector guidelines. These are developed at the state level.
And it might have been confusing at the beginning of the session. I had mentioned that Multnomah County had added additional measures to our dashboard. And so that's different, just to differentiate, that's different from the guidance, the sector guidances. So the dashboard is what we're looking at to determine whether or not we are moving forward with applying for reopening, which we did, but just to distinguish that, it might have been confusing when I said that.
Thank you for that clarity. So there are different questions popping up in the chat. Joseph Estacchio has a question. From a commercial banker standpoint, the business owners take advantage of the PPP loan program. Is maybe a temporary solution when revenue sales have been challenging. Are there issues with access to capital? Any of the business owners want to mention, or the question is, are you facing access to capital issues? How about, did you apply for PP loans? No? Are there any grants or loan programs that anyone has participated in? Nope. Interesting.
Oh, Jan, this is Rayhana. So the PPE loans were, of course, federal loans, but the state of Oregon has issued some funding for small business relief. And I believe Brian Guinea from Business Oregon is on the line. If he is available, maybe he could just briefly speak to the small business relief funds.
That would be great. Brian, are you on the line? I saw you.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. What Rayhana was talking about, the first tranche of state money that came to relieve small businesses was $10 million from the legislature, from the emergency board. That first $10 million was broken into 3 rounds of funding, and we've awarded the first 2 of those rounds. That money is state money that goes to cities and counties, economic development districts, and CDFIs, commercial lending folks, for matching their own programs. So for example, the city of Gresham, the city of Portland, Washington County, Clackamas County have small business grant programs. State money goes to refill or to backfill some of those. Obviously, it changes every day, and we are anticipating getting more money from the legislature, either through the emergency board or in any future special session. But that's the state of Oregon's small business money. Happy to take any questions on that.
Thank you, Brian. Do you want to mention also the 10 million that was allocated by the E-Board for personal protective equipment, and then the money that was allocated for technical assistance to sort of minority and women emerging small businesses?
There is more money coming down. We don't know what that's going to look like, either who will be eligible, businesses or cities or counties or tribes or ports, what the definitions are for that. So I'm a little hesitant to get into details on that. It's literally being worked out today between the governor's office and the speaker's office and the Senate president and members of the governor's economic response task force. But there will be additional resources coming down. I just wouldn't want to speculate on what that might look like or who would be eligible or dollar amounts at this time.
That's great. Thank you, Brian.
I'll just add, both Yuri and I are on the subcommittees for both reviews for the 10 million for the PPEs as well as the 3 million for the technical assistance. So you're right, Brian, it's still early to speak to that quite yet, as their details are still being worked out. But those are things that, for those in the audience, to be mindful and stay in touch with us on the call, and those who are part of the Chamber Coalition. The chambers are very active in conversations with the e-board as subcommittees and providing input, and appreciate that partnership too with you, Rihanna, and with Leah Horner.
Thank you, Jan. Sorry. I also just quickly want to mention the Small Business Navigator resource that is hosted by Business Oregon. If you're a small business, there's a hotline you can contact about any questions related to sort of state agency regulations or funding resources. They can help triage and provide information and referral. And maybe Brian can put that link in the chat for the Small Business Navigator. And then Business Oregon is also, there's also a link to a third party who has a list of vendors that may provide personal protective equipment if you're looking to purchase any PPE for business operations as we begin to reopen.
Great, Jan, I had a comment from one of the folks that attended here with me.
Go ahead, Yuri.
Well, you guys asked about loans, and I think I applied to a few of them, and everyone was like ran out of money the past 2 months. I'm a designer slash, I also own a blueberry farm, organic blueberries, and the challenge has been finding employees also. Like I find that people don't want to like work. They're scared and they don't know what and how to do it. So for my farm, I haven't been able to get people to work. So also.
And then here at Mojo Crepes, the owner here who founded it, he's not only had issues trying to get access to the capital, but also trying to file for the unemployment, and that's a long line as well. And then we have another member who wasn't able to join. He not only is dealing with the COVID issues, but now after all the protesting, his restaurant got vandalized. So it's got this compounding effect, and then of course has gone the route of trying to get access to capital as well. So.
Thank you. Was that Gus who made that was speaking earlier?
That was Gus. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Gus. I saw that in the chat. There's a comment from PBOT. Can our rep from PBOT speak to that comment you just made in the chat a little bit ago?
Absolutely. Good afternoon. My name is Amber Clayton. I am a Portland Bureau of Transportation manager of right-of-way permitting. And one of the things that we are trying to make available for people, especially as, for people with storefronts, with businesses where you would accept people in and customers, since physical space is going to be at such a premium right now, we are offering free permits for use of the right-of-way. So this could be, space on the sidewalk if you're doing more of a takeout model. you want people, safe space for people to line up. We can also look at the parking lanes or the parking spaces to either have people wait or as a takeout and pickup zone, or as possible seating if you're doing restaurants. And then we're also taking a look at side street and main street plaza concepts. So we are issuing these free permits. They will be good through the beginning or through the end of October. And for people that are in business right now, so for retail, we're issuing those permits right now. And then for everybody else, where we're waiting for Multnomah County Phase 1, we are pretty much getting everything ready, and hopefully they'll be ready to go on day 1. So I have included the link for more information about the permit in the chat. It's a very simple online application. Shouldn't take you very long. We're really trying to make sure that the application itself is as accessible as possible. So if we can get you in the door and your idea and your location in the door, we will work with you to help figure out what are all the details of the things that you need in order to make this happen, if using this street and the right-of-way space is something that will help you stay in business.
Thank you, Amber. That's really helpful. And for me personally, that's the first time I've heard of that program. So that's great as part of the reopening, using sidewalks and possibly street space. So looking at the chat again, and sorry, I'm navigating.
No problem. There's lots of questions in the chat, which is great. Please keep them coming. There was a question about the best way to receive reopening information, dates, times, and signage required. And so maybe I'll first hand over to Jessica and then Shay to talk about what information will come for folks about reopening and how people can access information.
Sure, thanks. This is Jessica again. Our website, we've been posting information and have information on there. I think I saw someone post the link, but if not, I'll go back in and send out the link. We've been posting updated information on our website that is synced up with Phase 1 reopening, so that folks can download that information now or in the future to utilize that. But it's mostly through our website. And then as Virginia mentioned, we have our liaison groups that are sending out information to specific groups that mirrors information on our website, makes it a little bit easier to navigate in a succinct way. So we can connect with folks to make sure that you all are connected to that liaison group to get that information. But most of the stuff is already on our website. And then we are developing some additional information for businesses that's in the works right now. And John, I don't know if you're, I don't see your name on the grid that I'm looking at right now. There you are. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to say about the business toolkit work.
Thanks, Jessica. Hi, my name is John Boshtinsky, and I work from Multnomah County Chair's office and helping coordinate some of the business response to the COVID pandemic. Thank you for letting me jump in really quick. Yes, so we're updating our website today with a business reopening toolkit, and we're also coordinating with Prosper Portland, and they're developing some materials for businesses to help sort of spur confidence in the public to know that they can go out safely and shop or do other activities. So that's all underway. I'll post a link in the chat, and if there's questions about that, then please feel free to ask.
Thanks, John. I don't think we have anyone here to address unemployment insurance. There was a question about unemployment. We'll be sure and follow up and send that out to appropriate person who can follow up with that. And Andrea will address that. Thanks, Andrea. Oh,
I also just want to, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Just want to briefly add, echoing John, county's putting out some great information in the toolkit, and at Prosper Portland, Andrea just put the link in the chat, but we do have some initial very colorful signage to share with businesses that we've been working with John's team and the public health team to design. So please feel free to see those. And then also, if you, as you're looking through that, we'd love to hear from folks if any specific marketing or signage in addition would be helpful. So we're very eager to hear from folks on what else would be good to include.
Great, thank you. We still have a little time. I think I want to ask this question for the group. Oh, some new messages. Are there anything that you all are facing specifically, since this is designed for the Asian and Pacific Islander communities? Are there any things that you feel like you're facing that other business owners might not be? And I'll open that up to the audience for either the business owners or anyone who's in attendance that is a business owner among our API community.
Hi.
Yeah, hello, Jen.
I'm Rosalind Hui, and I'm the owner of the Chinese newspaper. And just like Jamie said, our main income is from advertising. So I during this time I do a lot of community work, helping a lot of businesses, and most of them, I should say, all of them are Asian businesses. The question I just asked is whether they can get some information about reopening, or they have to get it by themselves. And the problem for these people is they don't understand English, so they don't usually get on website. So I don't know what is the best way for them to get information, because I work with them. So a lot of them, they call me and ask me for, hey, what things should I do? Like restaurants, they only know they have to keep 6 feet, and they need all they know is I need to clean. And then what else? And I have some people, some business that is doing a massage, and then they know, what should I do? They know nothing. And I know that in the website, in the Oregon Health website, they have things translated into Chinese, which is really nice. But if the people that doesn't know how to access those information, and then they don't know, they know nothing. So a lot of times they call me and then I just print it out for them. But if they don't know me and then I know a lot of them, there is no way for them to get correct information to prepare for the reopening.
Thank you, Rosalind. That is a very pertinent information, because we've talked about this as the digital divide. We're putting a lot of information on the web, but there are individuals that do not access the web. And so the web is not the end-all solution. So some ideas maybe that could come up from this is, where can we publish information for these individuals to access? Is it through the Asian Reporter? Is it through the Chinese newspaper? Is it through other publications? It's great that it's translated, but just to facilitate what I think you're getting at. And I think Jamie Lim, Asian Reporter, had a comment about that too. Jamie, you want to go ahead?
You know, one of the things I would like to request, and I think I just showed it down here. You know, I think most of the small businesses right now are unable to advertise, but I think many of the government agencies do have advertising budgets. And if they would please look into advertising in the minority newspapers. One of them, of course, is the Asian Reporter, and that would be a good avenue. I mean, I know many government agencies like the City of Portland, State of Oregon. They have many requirements for advertising certain things like construction, hiring, all of that stuff. I mean, that's got to go somewhere, and it would be nice to get some of that in the Asian Reporter.
And I would say, if you, yeah, just like Jimmy said, if they have an advertisement budget. It can be placed on a newspaper like it's for targeting for Chinese restaurants, and then you can place ad in our Chinese newspaper, or if you are targeting some in Vietnamese restaurant, Vietnamese business, and then you should advertise in Vietnamese newspaper. Newspaper business is really hard now, and if the business, if the city or the government can place ad, it can help us and also help a lot of our Asian businesses around the area.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi, Evelyn.
Yeah, hi. A thought I had is that had you thought about going through the churches that are specifically for the different Asian communities? There are Korean churches, there are Chinese churches, Vietnamese churches, and maybe something as simple as a flyer or something along those lines so that their pastor could share that information. Because they're connected to other individuals that are probably equally as unconnected. So it's just a thought.
Thank you, Evelyn, for the comment.
I'm one of the board member of the church too. And usually this kind of information when you go into the church is not necessary that the pastor is willing to share it out with others.
So that's not going to work, huh?
That's not the best way, I would say.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, disregard that one.
Well, I think this is, go ahead, Jamie.
Oh, sorry, Jan, I'd like to introduce Naska Habibi, one of our APAC board members. She's got some questions she wants to ask as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, so I actually worked in commercial lending for nearly a decade, and I left last year, and during COVID I had a lot of prior business owners that reached out to me, especially minority-owned businesses, and a lot of their concerns are some of what I've been hearing on this call, but a lot of them aren't really being addressed. And for example, I spoke to a gentleman today, and his concern was when he applied for the PPP loan, he couldn't include his salary in it. So his other alternative route was to file for unemployment. And for whatever reason, in the state next door in Washington, it took maybe a week to get unemployment, to get the benefits, and no problem. Here in the state of Oregon, and I heard that, the governor's office is also on this call, why is it that these business owners are having to do without, and they don't have unemployment, and 6-7 weeks later, they're still waiting for that money. It's unfathomable, because these people have not only their business to worry about, but they also have to think about putting food on the table for their own families as well. So, he said, hey, I just got an email today stating that they received my case, and it's 6-7 weeks later. So I think, a lot of times when we get on these calls, and what I'm hearing is really the issues aren't being directly addressed, and people want to know where is the money and what resources are really out there to help these business owners, because at the end of the day, while they do want to, they do want access to PPE, they also want access to funding, and they also want support and resources out there, and these minority-owned businesses are struggling. I spoke with a transportation company just last week, and again, same thing, no access to money. And with the transportation business taking such a large hit, it's frustrating. And to get on these calls and continue to hear the same thing over and over, and at some point it's, where is the money? How do we get access to more money? How do these people get food on the table? How do these people pay their bills? I think that's what's concerning, and I just don't hear a lot of that, and I don't hear a sense of urgency. And it's quite frankly, during when the PPP loan program started, I got frantic calls from my clients, previous clients, And I let them know, listen, these banks are going to prioritize their big corporations first. You're going to be the last on the list. You're a mom and pop shop, and you're probably not going to get funding the first time around. And I knew that as a banker, and it was obvious, and there was just no sense of urgency to get funds in the hands of these small business owners, and that's what they want. They want to know where the money's at, and they want to know, what is being done at a state level to ensure that they can pay their bills, they can put food on the table.
Rehana, would you like to comment?
Thank you. I appreciate sort of all that you said. And as
I'm sorry, I can't really hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
That's better.
Okay. I appreciate all that you raised, and as you may be aware, there is new executive leadership. There's a new agency director at the Oregon Employment Department. And I will also share that there are members of the governor's executive leadership team that are spending time at the agency to help ensure the backlog is addressed, because it is inexcusable and it is of serious concern for a number of people. So they are working diligently to help to address that backlog.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people, and I hear what you're saying, but when people are constant, I can, if you'd like, we can exchange information, and I can share with you the text, the emails, the calls of people saying, why did it, it took so long for it to even, for people on that team to be let go and say, hey, you're not doing your job properly, as people were just falling to the wayside, couldn't pay their bills. It took weeks for even any sort of action to be taken. So I hear what you're saying, but I don't see the urgency.
Yeah, and I can't speak for sort of the maybe inaction or lack of momentum in the past. I just know that moving forward, this is certainly something that is a priority, and is, they're working very hard to address the backlog.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I think that's great. I think though, it just doesn't put anything, it doesn't get the money in their hands. It doesn't put food on their tables. And that's what people are worried about, especially minority-owned businesses. We know that there is a systematical problem when it comes to getting funds that are allocated for them. They can't just walk into a bank and they don't, a lot of times they walk into the bank and they're not even taken seriously. And we saw that with the PPP loans. I talked to multiple business owners who aren't getting the same attention as, some other businesses. And I think it's unacceptable. I think there needs to be more resources, and I want to see more, more action being taken, so that way these people don't see their entire, a lot of these people came to this country and they worked for something, and now they're just seeing it fall apart when they had insurance. The insurance was unemployment, right? But they can't even get that. So I just want to see more action.
I think we all share your sentiment and appreciate your passion. I know Yuri and I have been on multiple committees, and we're representing and trying to be as vocal as we can with Rihanna and the governor and the state and the county and even the mayor's office on these different topics, specifically getting money into the hands of those who need it. And that has been our constant message, that it is an urgency. We do have other questions, so I appreciate what you're sharing. I'm gonna call on next, Cheryl Nervez had a question, and then Amelia.
Hi, I am Cheryl, and I am the board chair for PACO. And I wanted to echo some of the sentiments that I've been seeing on the chat and that was expressed earlier about both the digital divide and a cultural divide. There was a comment earlier that said, online resources are not the only way. And to some effect, I do kind of share that sentiment. I feel like small business owners whether they're open or not. I mean, obviously Multnomah County has not entered phase 1, but when they do, will they have the capability to even leave their place of business or step away? I mean, we see 50 participants today, but we know that there are hundreds more. And so I think there needs to be an effort, almost grassroots, that goes to every small business that's BIPOC and has people engaged. Bring your, go back to grassroots, bring the flyers, bring resources to these businesses, and train and hire people to do that. I think whether we activate some of our community nonprofits to support that, or the state takes action to create some hiring process to do that for people of color, I think that would be one step in the right direction. So I just wanted to share that sentiment, because you're right, not everybody's reading online. As much as you're sharing all the links that you are, I would say, I'd venture to say not everybody has access to computers. I mean, let's go back to basics. And those are the people we want to reach in these marginalized communities. So thank you for letting me express that.
Thanks, Cheryl. Amelia Salvador.
Yes, on behalf of one of my clients, she had just let me know just today that she had received notification from OSHA regarding her business that someone had reported her about violation of the 6 feet social distancing requirement. Now, she owns a coffee shop, so obviously she's not fully open because she is in Multnomah County, but she is doing the best she can to produce income by just takeout orders and curbside delivery. So with that, she's just really frustrated with receiving this notification from OSHA. And, I'm not quite sure how the monitoring is being conducted for this, where her frustration comes from, where people at Fred Meyer's are definitely not abiding by the social distancing requirements, and how does that get monitored as well?
Thank you, Amelia. So OSHA is largely the enforcement agency in all of this, and they are taking primarily an education-based approach as of right now, recognizing that a number of businesses, this is a new way of doing business. This is, all the guidelines and everything that's out there, it's all new. And so they are taking an education-based approach. And then if there are repeat sort of offenders, bad actors, they may levy penalties and things. But it is largely a complaint-based system. So, if there were a patron at another business that were to see violations, they could certainly contact OSHA in that instance as well. There are other enforcement agencies in addition to OSHA, like the Oregon Liquor and Control Commission, and they may be doing more proactive sort of spot checks of restaurants and bars as they begin to reopen. But as of right now, OSHA is the primary enforcement agency, and again, they're responding to complaints.
Thank you, Rehana. Well, we only have, I think we're at time actually. So we want to be respectful of people's schedules. We really appreciate all the speakers from the city, from the county, from the mayor's office, our business roundtable participants, and all of the partners that are co-hosts today, APAC and Apano. Thank you very much. If you have additional thoughts or questions, please do email us. And thank you for participating today. And you can email Andrea. It will take a few days, but we do take a transcript and translate today's chat as well as the meeting into other languages. So that will be available. And then if you have other ideas that come into your mind or questions, it took us a little while to warm up, but that's great. We had a really good, robust discussion. And so we want to just say thank you again for everyone and your time.
Thank you, Jan and others.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jan.
Bye-bye.